Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here, Zach, and thank you for coming all the way down to Hyderabad to do so. Congratulations on winning an award from the Indian Reading Olympiad. Now, it's pretty impressive for somebody of your age to be interested in history. However, you've actually authored multiple books on the topic. What inspired you to do such a thing?
I, in fact, have a really interesting story on how I got interested in history, whilst most other kids do not, because it is a very unknown subject, a subject which is believed not to be interesting and not to be fun. It actually began when my parents came back from a trip to Paris. My mother had a habit after her trips which I really enjoyed. She used to show me the pictures of her trip. And one of the images she showed me was the picture of the Mona Lisa in Paris in the Louvre Museum. She told me that this obscure, small painting done by an Italian artist Leonardo da Vinci in the age of Renaissance in Florence, she told me that this painting was the most famous painting in the world. And I got really interested. Why is such a small painting so famous? Every day I would spend hours just trying to understand the hidden secrets of this painting. Right? And every day, after I researched, my parents and I would go on a stroll, and during that time, I would tell them what all I learned. Did you know that the actual name of the Mona Lisa was La Gioconda? That's what Da Vinci named it. And that was because she was married to an Italian merchant called Francesco del Giocondo. And it is around this time that my school teachers started complaining about my handwriting skills.
Oh, wow.
My motor skills, right? And they told me that I need to write a page every day on any topic I like. And of course, the topic I chose was the Mona Lisa. And every day I would do some research, first on the Mona Lisa, then on its artist Leonardo da Vinci, then in the age in which it was painted, known as the Renaissance, and later into different Renaissance artists, and later on into the whole of history. I started writing essays. And every day, after I would do my research, I learned that history has a small problem. History is really tough to understand. It is really tough to read. And eventually, if I wanted to write history down in just a single page, it would be almost impossible. And that is how I started my journey, first from understanding the mysteries of an obscure painting and how it became the most famous painting in the world, and later trying to understand how a subject is thought to be boring simply because of the way it is presented.
Now, the story you've told me is amazing, but I do have one more follow-up question. You said that it was challenging to fit all of the knowledge that you have about history on a single page. But I imagine it would be equally challenging to write a whole book, let alone 3 books, as you've done. What were some of the challenges you faced while researching and editing these books?
Right. So the challenge I told you about was how to put history into a single page. I had understood what the problem with history was. The problem with history is that it is too long-winded, it is too verbose. In the Twitter and Instagram generation, children want subjects to be fun and easy and quick to understand. How exactly do I put it like that on paper? I was trying to do some research on how exactly do I make it easy to put history down on paper, on a single page. That is when I came about a really interesting method used by storytellers, by fiction writers, fantasy writers, on how to make their stories interesting and easy and fun to understand. They used a method which I termed the situation, the complication, and the solution method. The situation would be what is going on, the complication would be the twist in the tale, the problem that appears, and the solution would be how exactly that problem was solved. In history, let me give you an example with history's greatest tyrant, Genghis Khan. The first point or the situation would be that there is a boy in the steppe regions. He belongs to a nomadic tribe. His father is the chief of his tribe. And after his father, he will be the next chief of his tribe. The world that is at his feet. However, after his father died in a horse accident, this boy comes back to his tribe to claim his title as the chief. But his uncles, his brothers, his cousins, they exile him to a mountain and take over his title. That is the complication. And the last point, or the solution, would be that this boy comes back from the mountains. He reclaims his title as the chief of a small tribe. And then he changes that small title into the biggest title the world can ever see. He conquered almost the entire world, making one of history's largest empires and becoming the Great Khan or Genghis Khan. And when I started writing more, I learned my next problem with history.
Well, Zach, after listening to that, I'm sure our audience is incredibly interested in checking out your books. But if there's one thing that you could help us out with, could you please tell us what your next project is going to be about?
I've been working on more ways to make history interesting. And my books, World History in 3 Points and More World History in 3 Points, have been published by Hachette, the second largest publisher in the world, and are also being translated into different languages, the first of which, the Malayalam book, has come out. After doing more research on how to make history more interesting, I learned about what I call historical threads, how various things in history connect to each other, how an obscure Assyrian muddy road connects to the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire, the British conquering India, and eventually each and every one of us in this world. These threads work on with almost anything, ice creams or women empowerment, any topic you can think of, these threads form.
That sounds incredible, and I can't wait to check it out. Thank you so much for making time for us here today, Zach, and congratulations once again on winning your award.